What's up, you guys? So I've been thinking about what kind of videos to make lately because I've made videos about just about anything you can imagine about Swedish life. I mean, I've made videos about weather, I've made videos about politics, I've made videos about the things that I like, that I don't like, about girls. I've done just about anything you can possibly imagine. Those videos are all up on the channel. But there's one thing that I have yet to talk about, and that is dating in Sweden versus America. Now, I think the reason why I did not make this video a long time ago is because when I first came to Sweden, I had a girlfriend. She was the main reason, well, one of the main reasons why I ended up in this country to begin with. So it wouldn't really make sense for me having the perspective of what dating is like in Sweden. But now that I've been single for 3 or 4 months here in Sweden, I've got a little bit of a taste for what the dating scene is like over here. And let me tell you, it is quite a bit different than what dating is like in America. And as a guy, I found it kind of interesting and refreshing to experience something different. So let's get right into that in this video right now. The first thing that I noticed about dating in Sweden is that dating in Sweden is much more casual in general compared to America. I mean, you don't really ask people out on a first date to go out for like a dinner and a movie. That would be like super fancy here in Sweden. Usually people like to keep it casual and go for a fika, which is like a coffee and a treat. Instead, then you can just kind of talk over coffee. It's much easier to just get to know somebody in a casual environment. So if you're new to the dating scene here in Sweden, ask to go out for a fika first and just kind of go from there. And if it goes well, then you can go into more of those fancy dates that we would have as normal dates in America. The second thing that I noticed about dating in Sweden is that because of like the gender roles I think are much more equal in this country, I noticed that a lot less pressure is on the guy to actually make things happen. So for instance, a lot of times girls will be the ones to reach out to the guys, and that's not weird. It's not like one-sided, because in America a lot of times it's always the guy having to reach out to the girl, invite the girl out on dates, pay for the dates in a lot of instances. Here in Sweden, because there's much more equality on both sides, a lot of times the girls would like to pay for themselves. Of course, like if a guy offers to pay for them, the girls will really appreciate that, but it's definitely not an expectation like I think it can be a lot of times in America. So those are just some things that I've noticed from like the socio-cultural part of Sweden and how that influences dating. I think the gender roles are much more split and even. And if you are a foreigner coming to Sweden and you want to go on dates and you are worried about speaking Swedish, you don't really have to worry about it, because most of the Swedes speak amazing English. They've been learning it from a very, very young age, and most of the dates that I've been going on, I've been speaking English on these dates. Although I can speak Swedish, it's not perfect, and usually there will be a lot better flow to the conversation if it takes place in English. So it's not something that you really have to worry about. And of course, like if you can speak Swedish, the people here really, really do appreciate it, but you don't really have to worry quite as much. And also, I think people in Sweden are very, very interested in different cultures and different people around the world. So if you come from another country like me, there's a natural interest, and people want to get to know you and want to know about your experiences and your upbringing. Just like for me, it's very interesting being in a foreign country. I love to hear about what it was like growing up in Sweden. What is it like to be Swedish, and all these things. So a lot of times it makes for some very natural, fun conversations when you do come from a foreign country. Something that you do want to watch out for, though, is that you don't want to be like overly confident or cocky, because a lot of times Swedes will take that in the wrong way. They're very much reserved in general, and this doesn't just apply to dating. You don't really want to brag a lot about yourself here in Sweden. It kind of makes people uncomfortable. I've talked about this in other videos, like when I went into detail about the differences between American and Swedish girls. You should definitely check that video out as well. You don't want to come off as too much over the top. Just try to be genuine and humble, and I think that will go a long way for those of you that are dating here in Sweden. Just try to be down to earth, and definitely don't come off as like like over the top or cocky, because I think that'll be a turnoff to a lot of Swedish people. And in general, I think that the Swedes are a bit more reserved about their feelings. Like when they're dating somebody, they don't want to really open up and get too serious too soon. That's definitely something that I have noticed. It can take a little bit of time for people to warm up, especially in the beginning. But once they do, you'll find that Swedes are extremely friendly and flirty, and so it makes for some very, very fun times hanging out with them. And it can be really, really easy to connect on a more intimate level. So let's say you've had a string of dates and you're trying to get a little bit more serious. Let's talk about the ultimate part of that. Let's talk about like marriage and kids and all those things. In general, Swedes get married a lot later than Americans. I mean, I have friends back home that are my age that are getting married already, and that's like extremely common in America for people my age to be starting families and doing all those things. And here in Sweden, I would say that's much, much more uncommon. People wait a lot longer to get married, and the dating scene when you're younger is a lot more casual. So for my situation, being somebody that is definitely not looking for anything serious at this point in my life, it's kind of nice to be in an environment where there's no pressure to find the one and, you know, have marriage and start a family and all those things, because that thought is just kind of freaky to me. I mean, I feel like I'm at least like 10 years away from thinking about those sorts of things. So I feel like being in Sweden actually really, really fits what I'm looking for right now. So just keep that in mind, that Swedes like to get married and start families at a much later age than they do in America. So I hope this video was interesting and insightful for you guys, and hopefully if you're coming to Sweden as a foreigner, you've learned a little bit about what the dating scene is like here, because I haven't seen like a ton of videos on this topic out on the internet, but I think it's a very, very useful topic to learn about. So if you guys enjoyed this, give this video a like, and also comment down below if there's any other aspects of Swedish life that you want me to talk about that I haven't talked about yet, because I've covered a ton of them, as I have been saying. But with that being said, I'm going to sign off for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.